Hi everyone, it's Zara Altair with Actation Now, and this is the Midweek Zap. And today's guest is Ben Moskalensky, and I'm so excited. We set this up several months ago, but it was still school time, so we waited for summer to be with us to actually do the show. So welcome everyone, welcome new people, welcome all the Zapsters. We're going to have fun. Ben, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just, pretty much like any other 10-year-old. I like Google Plus a lot. I think it's really nice, really interactive. I also like to go outside with Dad, who's over here. Go duck watching. I don't know why. I like ducks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, duck watching. That's pretty cool. Yes, and Dad, for those of you who don't know, is Oleg Moskalinsky, and he's here for moral support, but is remaining silent, unless he changes his mind. Okay, so Ben, we were going to talk about Google Plus. So tell us what you like about Google Plus.
There are many things I like about Google Plus, but probably the number one thing on my list is the interactiveness from all these other states and countries. Like, at one point, Dad set up a hangout on air called Kids with Talk with Kids, and basically, just a hangout. Anyone 7 through 13 could join, and they could just talk on air, to show all the benefits of Hangouts. One person came from Texas, all the way from Texas, and I just think that's what's cool about Google Plus. You can talk with someone from Texas without, phone calls, emails, where do you want to meet up, taking all these hours to drive. Just crank up a Hangout whenever they're online, or just even chat with them, or comment on one of their posts, or even tag them in another post. It won't take them forever to reply unless they're not on Google Plus at the moment. And that's just what I like about Google Plus the most. It just so cool how you can do all this interactive stuff.
I have to agree. Oops, somebody hasn't. You want to turn down the sound on the event thing?
Oh, sure.
And then we won't have an echo.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, cool. Got that technicality done with. Yeah, so you meet people from all over the world. Here is Wick, who lives just outside of London. And Dave White lives in Sussex, and Michael Thomas is in Belize, and Carmen, I can't remember where Carmen is these days, somewhere in Europe. So we have people here today on the show from all over the world. Sean is from Ireland. So we have a lot of people from all over the world. It's very exciting. So we're still getting an echo. I don't know. Is the sound off on the actual event page?
That's weird. My sound is really low.
Okay. Nope, still hearing it. I wonder if Oleg, is your sound on for the event? Can you turn it down, please? Okay, and his Heart is also from the UK.
My mic is off, so it couldn't be me.
Okay, but is your event playing? Is the event playing on the event page? Nope. Okay. So, Ben, if you could turn your mic back on because we want to hear you. There we go. Um, what? How do you see yourself? We didn't talk about this question before, so this is off the wall. How do you see yourself integrating what you do in life with what goes on in your life in Google Plus?
I just see myself as, I don't look at it by age or anything else. I just look at myself as another Google Plus user out of like the billion, I think, that use Google Plus. Maybe I have some more followers than someone else. Maybe I have less. It doesn't really matter. I'm just another Google Plus user, just like so many other people out there. That's just how I look at myself.
Well, I think that's a great way to look at it because I think it's all about people. It's definitely people communicating with people. And that interactivity is all about people. I mean, here we are together today, being people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're basically just silent Google Plus, Google Plus page.
Yep.
0 posts in the past 4 years, I think, when it came out, approximately. So, if there were no people, then Google Plus wouldn't be made. I mean, there'd be no Google Plus at all. It wouldn't be active. Basically, nothing would ever go on. It'd basically just be the dinosaurs.
The dinosaurs. Okay, now one of the things that you do, I think more than most of the other people I know on Google Plus, is you do a lot of polls. So tell us how you got started doing polls, why you do them, and then what happens with your polls.
Well, I started polls about the time they came out because it just seemed like a really interesting concept to me. Instead of like making posts, people just one-plussing them, not commenting. You don't have to have a trillion comments. I mean, you just, even if it's your poll, you can just, you don't even have to vote. You can just look at the options if it's your poll. But if it's someone else, you have to click on the options. And I just, had a lot of opinions, and I wanted to see what other people thought on, shows, like a show I really like called Dragon Ball Z. So I make a lot of polls on that. Marvel and DC, I'm a big fan of that, along with a lot of other games, comics, stuff like that. And I just wanted to get the view, opinion, and in the comments, reasons why people like polls. I mean, like certain things that they pick. Because sometimes the results surprise me, like big time surprise me. Like I just put it in there because, it makes sense, but I never knew that this option would win.
So when you get surprised by the answers and the responses, does that change your view in any way, or is it just a surprise?
Well, it depends. I mean, if I don't get any reasoning for it, then obviously my mood is not going to change. But let's say if someone in the comments gives me some valid reasons, I don't just listen to reasons and just go with them for no reason. Mm-hmm. If someone gives me valid reasons, I cannot counter those reasons with my opinion because they make sense. I switch sides because it makes sense.
Okay, great. And so it's all about rationality.
Exactly.
Okay, and it's all about growing thinking, which I think is what polls do if we're using them. Correctly isn't the right word, but if we're using them to really discover thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ben, we have a couple of things. Elena Bellemetti, who is actually in the UK, says, nice to meet you, Ben. And so we're getting a nice international audience here today. And then Wiwick wants us to talk about a certain something. And he says, let's talk about creativity. So Ben, you're on a roll with that one. Let's talk about creativity. I think
Well,
go ahead.
sorry. Creativity, it can be really, it can be really expressed well on Google Plus. It's not like there are many restrictions. I mean, besides the options that you're given, you can pretty much do anything. You want to make some funny, creative polls? Do it. Want to make some funny, creative pictures? Do it. Want to write a story? Do it. I mean, Google Plus can really show a side of a person in many ways, even without looking or talking to them in person. And it just, in my view, it really expresses a person. I mean, because not all creativity is the same, or else it wouldn't be creativity. So it just depends in what direction the creativity goes, and that defines a person, in my view.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm not going to go searching through the comments, but earlier in the comments before the show even started, Midweek said, well, creativity is illogical. And I'm not sure I agree with that. What do you think about that?
Depends on the scenario. Like in some cases it is, but if it's just something like creativity in, let's say, education is illogical, I think that is as far from the truth as you can get. Because if anything, what if you discover a new fact? If there's no creativity, you never discover anything. People never want to discover anything if there's no creativity, imagination, curiosity, a need to explore. Like, you would need creativity to come up with, like, I don't know, let's give an example. Satellites. I mean, it's not like you just get a idea from your brain, it pings, and you just have to think about it, I mean, we wouldn't have half the stuff, we wouldn't have a quarter of the stuff we have now if creativity wasn't a thing. But in some cases, it is illogical. Like, let's say in chess, you want to try some new move, like some new kind of weird move pattern, but it makes absolutely no sense because, you're in the way of the bishop, your queen is in the way of the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
In some case, yeah, that's, I mean, sure, it's creative, but it's illogical. So it all depends on the context, the use of it.
Mm. So, to me, Midweek even asking that question about, stating that, well, if it's creative, it's illogical, is actually a creative statement. Because
actually, yeah, it is, yeah.
Because he's thinking about it, So, and that is what you mentioned about curiosity. That curiosity is kind of that little spark, well, I wonder why it does this. Or I wonder what makes it blue, or whatever the question might be,
Exactly. Yeah, what makes this blue? What makes this red? What makes this fly? Gravity. Why do things fall? If there was no creativity for these questions, because you need creativity to think of these questions, you'd never find an answer. So before every discovery, there needed to be creativity, which leads into curiosity, leading to imagination, leading to what we have now: houses, furniture, supplies, luxuries, even chairs, even spin-around chairs.
Exactly, because I think what the curiosity does is it leads us to go to things like, well, what if, or, I've never thought about putting, and I'm trying to think of a recent example. I think cooking would be a good example, where you try combining two new ingredients that you haven't really thought of before, which is like some famous chefs, especially in nouveau cooking, that they will combine tastes like fish with something sweet as a new taste experience. That's just a simple example.
Yeah, but still, nobody would ever come up with new food. There wouldn't even be food, any kind of tasty food, if there wasn't any creativity to it. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that creativity is in all of us, and I think we need to encourage it. That curiosity and that thinking of divergent things in combination in a new way. I think that. Okay, Andre has a question for you. I'm just trying to keep up with all this stuff. Does he play Minecraft and would stream out for Doge? Is that what it's called? Dogecoins?
I know what Minecraft is, but I've never heard of.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't know what that is.
So do you play Minecraft?
Yes, actually, and that's actually leading back to creativity because you have to in Minecraft you have to think of creative ways to survive. I mean, Minecraft is huge and filled with some like as an example, the reason it's called Minecraft is there's a lot of mining. If you mine down, there are even like different worlds beneath certain amounts of stone, and there are all these different materials. So it's a game of skill and imagination and creativity, like building a certain design for a house to sleep in. So let's say it's foolproof for a certain creature. Like as an example, maybe it's foolproof for an enemy like a creeper, which is it's 2 blocks tall, so it's fairly tall. If you just put in a door, or just 2 metal slabs, and it won't be able to get in. But let's say you only put in 1 metal slab. The creeper will not be able to get in, but a spider, which is shorter, can just crawl through. So you have to really use your imagination to think how to parry these different things.
I think that's part of what Minecraft does is it keeps pushing those questions in order to create those new things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So so you love the ducks. You love the ducks. You guys live near the water, right?
What'd you say?
Ducks.
What about them?
And what about them? What do you like about them? You like following ducks a lot and watching them. I do too, but I just want to know why you do.
Well, in our region, our area, or at least where me and my dad go, there are a lot of different kinds of ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And at first we were like, oh, cool, it's a duck. But eventually we saw their different habits, their different, because we go on laps there as like exercise. Mm-hmm. Eventually we got into ducks. We started naming ducks, habits, even different genders. We even did different genders for some. And we're discovering species and subspecies, like subspecies like different kinds, but the same sort of duck. I know, I didn't think that we'd ever get that far to actually come up with subspecies. And it's just really fun to look at their habits and their intricate designs. Like, let's say our very first type of duck that we cataloged.
Mm-hmm.
There we go, cataloging ducks. Is called the diver, and it's really weird. It has red eyes. If you look seriously close, it actually has red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike most ducks, you know how sometimes a duck it just puts in half its body in the water and the other half sort of sticking up.
Yep.
The diver, it actually dives. I mean, that's why we call it the diver. It actually goes all the way under. And unlike most ducks, it's white and black. And it also has like cool little spike things, like black or white little spikes on its head. So we just think the diver's really cool, and along with some other types of ducks.
Yeah, well, I think one of the conversations that we had a while back was about categorizing ducks. And at that time, I did not mention that I used to teach science to kids, preschool through junior high. And when we went out on field trips, everybody had to create a name for either the plant that they saw, or the animal, or the bird, or the reptile, whatever it is. They had to create the name of that thing. They had to make a name for it before I would say, in the adult world it's called this, and in the Latin species categorization it has this name. But that to examine it in order to come up with a name. And that was one of the things I thought was really cool, that you were doing this categorization through observation and watching the actual activities, not just the coloring, but the actual activities that the ducks do, and the different sorts of duck, how they're different. I just thought that was really cool. So, okay, we've got some more comments here, Ben. Here, first we have from Michael Thomas. He says, I think Christopher Columbus had all those fine qualities in his direction and definitions. And that's when you were talking about creativity. And then, oh my goodness, we have a really long one from, wait, here we go. You ready? It says, logic forces your mind to think in well-known accepted patterns so you would not get anything new. Creativity gets throttled by logic in that situation. For example, falling in love does not follow any logic, but then deciding to make firm commitment and getting married is logical. But children are born due to love and not by logic, and people in love do not follow logic. That's wonderful, Louie. I love that. What do you think, Ian? Any comments on that?
I mean, logic it's always good to have logic, but if you just become too logical, you become, I know this is kind of like, actually this is a really bad example, but you become like a Romulan or a Dalek. I mean, if you're purely logic, there's no fun to like anything in life, and that itself is illogical if you think about it. Having nothing but logic is illogical.
Magic word, fun. That fun, and I love that. I love that and you categorize it as logical, which I think is just totally cool. I just think that's totally cool. Fun is logical.
So technically, in a way, his statement was illogical if you think about it. I mean, in a way, it is. I think. I'm on the fly, Let
me read the first part again, because that's kind of the core of it. It says, logic forces your mind to think in well-known accepted patterns, so you would not get anything new. Creativity gets throttled by logic in that situation. So it's about accepting the new.
Well, logic, I don't think it gets rid of anything new, because what if logic leads you to a new conclusion? If you think about it, logic, I mean, it's led me to many new conclusions. If I think about something logically, like sometimes people get really emotional, happy, mad, sad, but if you think about it logically, it can lead you to a new, smarter conclusion. Then again, it could possibly lead you to a sometimes maybe the logic could backfire, and maybe something unexpected would happen, and you should have just went with your emotions. But usually logic works. So I'm not saying logic is all bad. I mean, it's far from that. If nobody has logic, let's just take all this guy's money, sort of deal.
We wouldn't make a lot of decisions if we didn't have logic.
Exactly. Or and maybe we still would, but we'd make bad decisions.
Repeatedly. And then so I have a comment here from Oleg. He says, the logic of getting married is highly debatable. Thanks, Oleg. And then Sean says, cooking with my 11-year-old son, Dylan, is not just about ingredients, recipes, buying the goodies, and process of cooking, not to mention the mess. It's about harnessing imagination, chatting, planning, sharing, and empowering each other, and creativity flows and bonding. Very important. What a guy, Ben. Okay. So, thank you, Sean. That's great. And cooking with kids is totally fun.
Yeah, I completely agree with him because you have to have a certain balance of both. If anything, this is bad. Okay, if anything is out of balance, if one part is out of balance, the other tilts. So even if one thing goes out of balance, the other goes out of balance anyways. If you keep everything equal, everything is balanced. Just like this, you have to have the proper supplies, but you also need to have the heart, the love, the fun, all that sort of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think cooking was such a cool example, because he mentioned, you know, there's all the stuff, getting the stuff going to the store, blah blah blah. Those are processes, but the actual cooking part is filled with all that fun and imagination and human connection, which is how we started when we started talking about, you know, Google Plus. Is that it's that humanity, it's the reality of connecting with other people and having conversations and interacting with them, whether we're doing it by post, or we're doing it in Hangout chats, or we're doing it in live video chats, or we're doing it in something more formal like this being out on air. So I totally agree. You know, and I just love it that you said fun, because I think fun is such an important part of life.
It is.
Yeah, it's fun is a totally important part of life, and it's more fun. And then Peter Hazley says, balance in all things, Ben.
Yeah, I think that's a good statement. Because maybe I might not think of something at this exact moment, but from any example I could think of, balance is always good. Even in physical examples like yoga, you know, you're standing on two hands, both legs in the air. If one is tilted backwards, and the other is tilted forth, you're gonna fall down one way. But if they're both standing straight up, if the arms and the legs are perfectly straight up, then nothing goes wrong. Unless, you know, of course, you lose your balance with the hands. That must be hard, actually. I've never thought about that until now, but that must be hard.
That's a perfect example of balance and losing your balance. You know, losing your balance is like fall over.
Exactly. Another example, I think Dad is trying to show another example, is with this strawberry thing. I mean, that thing was heavy, so you always have to keep it balanced. So I think that this is like another example. Because, you know, who wants to buy a strawberry shish kebab and then in 2 seconds lose it?
It just kind of plops off, huh?
Exactly. It's hard. You always have to keep it balanced.
Oh, that's great. Now, you have written a book, The Switzerland Plot, and it's together in a book form, and you are planning in the future. There we go. Okay, hold it up, and here we are. Author, Ben Moskalensky.
Is it hard? Should I?
Okay. Wait, it's for some reason the camera's on me. Let me put it on you. There we go. Hold it up. Okay.
I can't even see the.
Okay. He also conducts and writes theories for games and stories. Tell us a little bit about that, Ben. You can put your book down.
Um, well, in my view, some things in games and shows, they just sort of leave it open. Maybe the creators of the show didn't notice. Maybe they just didn't care. Maybe they did that for marketing. I do not know. But they just leave it open. So I think it is the responsibility of the fans to write their own little theories. Some are huge. I mean, some of those things are like 400. Some of them are like book size, like real book size. Seriously, I haven't read those big ones because I don't have that kind of time. Man, those are huge. I don't know where people have time to write those. But they are. It's really nice to express opinions and then to post about it and debate in the comments different opinions of different people, possibly showing other fan fictions, possibly editing your own fan fiction, and maybe even making a new fan fiction. So that's why I do it. Like in games like Legend of Zelda, lots of people do Mario and Link crossovers. And at one point I did. I did it a really long time ago, so I don't think I'll be able to find it now. But it was a really long time ago. I did a deal like Bowser and Xandorf were like teaming up. They made this machine to like open a portal. You know, I sort of got a little sci-fi into there because I cannot help myself when it comes to sci-fi. So yeah, that's that. So I think that's another thing with creativity, actually. Fan fictions really help express opinion and creativity. Plus, it's fun to write them.
Yes, plus it uses a lot of logic all at the same time.
Yeah, well, video game logic, I mean.
Yeah.
Logic doesn't go with any of that.
Yeah. So, and then you have also, this is something that a lot of people wish they could have happen, but haven't had it happen yet. You also did a guest post. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I was actually invited to a guest blog by David E. Garcia. Thank you, again, by the way. He asked my opinion on tech, education-wise. So I wrote an article about an experience I had with netbooks. I decided for that particular article, I'd write about some really nasty experiences I've had with netbooks. And like one time we were in the SBA tests. It took 5 netbooks. The 5th one actually worked until I could finally get it to do the test normally. I ended up doing the test an hour later than everyone else. I mean, I just find it so unbelievable. You know, 2nd computer tops. 5th computer, I mean, that is not fun, okay? But I did have fun recounting it and writing it. And it just really like showed my opinion on the whole netbook Chromebook issue online. I mean, not online, but in schools, in education.
So you're already theorizing about education. So that is totally cool. That is totally cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, without doing the whole story, just give us a little bit about your book, The Switzerland Plot.
Well, I have this one class called Young Authors, and judging by the name, I'm sure you could tell that Young Authors, it's all things, and not just books. Like at one point we wrote little poems. We wrote an ode at one point. And basically did anything any type of author could do. And she's actually an art teacher, so there's a lot of art involved in it as well. So each of us wrote a book, 12 pages tops. I had a lot in my book, so I had to make the font kind of dinky. Thank you. And it still turned out to be 12 pages with the pictures. And basically, it tells. I like stories where the author is in it, so I kind of put myself in it. I like the Agatha Christie concept of a murder mystery, so I decided to. There's a reason I chose Switzerland, and I don't want to give it away, because for future reasons. So I chose Switzerland in the King's Castle. I don't know what it really looks like, so I just drew it. Just a nice looking castle of trees and stuff like that. Tried to make it look nice. And I then basically wrote about a murder mystery, where I decided to put in my best friend Joey, who I mentioned earlier. So we're basically like two detectives working together on. I use a really fancy term for it. Two foreign detectives working on a murder case. That the first thing that came to mind, I'm like, you know what? Why not? And I also do not like books that do not have a lot of action. But I also do not like books that have nothing but action, because, then there's no really time for the story. Motorcycles jumping over buildings for half the book. I mean, I don't like things like that. So I decided to put in a fair amount of detective stuff. Maybe a little bit about, the personalities, because, we don't want blank slates here. I also, put in, like, detective clues by, Doctor Who actually helped a lot in this. By watching Doctor Who. There was one episode where there was Agatha Christie, so I sort of used some elements, changed a couple things, so, we don't want to, rip off or anything. And, added some of my own detective material, and the two detectives came up with some really cool evidence with all sorts of cool detective tools, and it basically shows how how they're trying to catch the murderer, but pretty much for the entire book, the murderer is always like a step ahead of them, and that's a summary in a way of my book.
I can't wait for your HOA where you're going to read this for us, so we all get to experience the story. It sounds fabulous. Do you have a date planned yet?
No, I don't. I haven't thought of another date. I missed the 19th. I got spaced out. So I'm just thinking of another date, but no, not at the moment.
Okay, great. So we'll all just have to be aware and stay in touch and watch for the date so we can get the whole story read by the author, which is totally cool, the Switzerland plot. So, Ben, we're coming to the end of our time. Is there one last thing you'd like to talk to everyone about, whether it's creativity or logic or duck categorization, whatever your choice?
Any of the above work. I like all of them. It was really fun, talking to you about all these different topics, going kind of hypothetically into them, looking at them from different points of view, and our points of view. Probably, let's do another one on creativity.
All right, I'm game if you're game, so we'll schedule another one strictly on creativity and delve further into it. And I think we can do it creativity and logic. What do you say?
Yeah, that's fine. The more the merrier.
Okay, and then Peter Hatherley says, "Love your enthusiasm, Ben. You've got a great future ahead of you." So
That's good to know.
that's reassuring to a parent. And thank you, Ben, and thank you, Oleg, for being here silently until the very end. And thank you so much, Ben. And now we've got a format for the next Ben Moskalensky appearance on the Midweek Zap. So we just tip of the iceberg here today. So, Ben, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And
My pleasure.
it was fun for me. right.
Same here. It was fun here too. Thank you a ton.
Okay, so bye everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Ciao.